welcome back to Testimony Tuesdays. I'm Pastor Antonio.
And I'm Pastor NaTavia.
Listen, before we go any further, do us a huge favor, please. Smash that like button. Smash the like button. Go ahead and like and subscribe. If you have not subscribed yet, you want to do that so that you don't miss any notification of when these videos and these testimonies drop. I'm telling you, you're going to be mad if you miss it. Go ahead and subscribe.
Yes, we pray that these episodes have been an absolute and tremendous blessing to you. We want to hear from you. Share those testimonies in the comments. Share how each episode has touched your life, has transformed your faith, has elevated you to another level in God. We would love to hear how these are impacting you as the viewers and as our listeners to what God has going on here on Testimony Tuesdays. And listen, we want to include you in the episode. So listen, we're creating what's called the faith question of the day, where we would like for you to submit your faith questions, and we're going to answer one faith question per episode. So go ahead and submit those questions, and we will be sure to answer one faith question a day from you guys as the viewers to include you in on what's happening here on Testimony Tuesdays. Ready for today?
I'm ready. You ready?
You ready?
Let's go.
Let's get it.
All right, so let's go back again to the year 2010. Bars. I'm telling you, that was bars, okay? Let's go back to 2010.
Keep your day job. I love you, but you're just not a rapper, okay?
We're going to go back to 2010.
Honesty is important. Honesty.
But you're not being honest right now. It was fire, and you know it, hater. 2010. 2010.
Yeah.
That was a very life-changing year for you, because that's when I entered into your life.
For me.
If I would say so myself.
It was probably a traumatic one for you. Correct?
Let's find out why.
Because I entered into your life.
Let's find out why it was so traumatic.
Why was it traumatic?
Because you played hard to get.
Did I?
You did. Yes, you did.
I had to test shit.
Ain't that much testing in the world.
The beginning of testimony is what? Test.
Ain't that much test in the world for what you put me through.
I had to make sure.
Okay,
Ladies, make sure. If you ain't willing to stand the test, then ain't no testimony on the other side of that.
You gave me.
Did you stay?
That was like a pre-med test.
Did you stay?
I did,
yeah.
And for good reason.
What was your good reason?
I've been rewarded handsomely. Okay. But it was a test.
Was it worth it? Was it worth it? So for all the listeners out there, all the viewers, all the men, was it worth it?
It was worth it.
Yeah.
It was worth it.
Yeah.
It was worth it. 2010. I had the year prior gotten out of a relationship, and I was just being me. I was chilling, doing my own thing, wasn't thinking about nobody. I was just being me. And 2010 rolls around, and I just had this desire for a best friend, right? A little did I know, there was this little light-skinned 5'2" young lady.
Well, I had to be little.
Because you are. you are. It's the truth.
I'm fun size.
Huh?
I'm fun size.
Okay, well.
Not little.
Okay.
That's the meaning.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But I guess that's a shot back for a shot. This is how you keep your marriage fresh, okay? This is how you stay in love for 14 years.
Absolutely. It's the minimum.
We might have to cut this episode because he's going too far, okay? All right. That's your last one, okay? All right.
All right. Seriously. Woosah. All right. 2010. I'm like, hey, God, I want a best friend. Yeah. Just really relaxing, just chilling, just, again, being me, doing my thing. A little did I know, there was a young lady a few cities away who had this same thought process. So let's talk about that. Where were you in that time period of your life? And let's talk about how this came together, because the ending is good, but we gotta y'all know we gotta give y'all the process. We gotta build up to. We gotta give y'all the story, the good story behind it.
Who doesn't love a good story, right? So for me, at 19, I had the year prior to that, God called me home from school. So I'm on the bus going to UMD every day, and every day I hear the same song. Will you say yes? I'm like, God, what? I thought I was saying yes. Like, I want to be a pediatrician. I thought you was in agreement with this, Lord. Like, what's going on? every day. Will your heart say yes? Will your soul say yes? And I contended with that for like pretty much that whole year. And afterwards, I couldn't find it no more. I'm like, okay, God, what do you want me to say yes to? And he was like, I want you to come home and spend a year with me. And I was like, okay, that means my dreams of being a pediatrician since I was like knee high to a grasshopper, which I ain't probably too much further from that now. Since you got jokes, I could joke with myself. I was like, all right, God, like, yeah, I don't know what's next. I don't know what's on the other side of this, but even though I was still very much so a fresh believer at that point, I didn't grow up in church. He's a church boy. I didn't grow up in church like he did. And so I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know what God had for me. I didn't know about purpose or calling, any of that stuff yet, really. But I don't know. I just had an inclination enough to trust God and to see it through. And it was through that time that I literally made the decision to forsake everything else. Like in my former life, in my prior past to NaTavia, I was a little player from the Himalaya. It's like, nah. But anyway, I decided to give all of that up and just being in a place, in a position of just having fun, you know. I wasn't having premarital sex or anything, but just being friendly with guys and things like that. But I just made a decision like, hey, no, I really want to be serious about my relationship with God. Like, there's nothing else out there for me. When I'm looking to date, I'm looking to marry, blase. But in that time when I made that decision, it was more so about being in a place and being in a position where it was me and God. Like, I don't want anything else. Like, I don't need anything else. It's not worth getting into any relationship or pursuing anything relationally if my relationship with him isn't proper. Right. And so I had to make sure, like, that was the number one thing that was solid in my life. Like, I had to know him first, because if I don't know him, then I don't know me. If I don't know me, then how in the world can I know anybody else to even pursue a path of marriage or any type of relationship, right? And so I had a lot of healing to do, a lot of deliverance that needed to take place, and I really grew this level of intimacy with God that just transformed and changed my life. And I got so content in that place where God literally became my best friend. Like, I didn't want anything but God. Like, I would stay in my room every single day for hours upon hours. Like, my mother would be coming in there, knocking on the door, checking on me. Like, girl, are you okay? Are you coming out to eat today? And I'm like, yeah, at some point. It'd be like 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. Like, some point I'm coming out, but I'm perfectly content with God. Like, I really felt like that's how Jesus was sustained in the wilderness. Like, just because you're in the presence of God, like, your natural body doesn't waste away. Like, you're not hungry, you're not thinking about any of that. You're just thinking about being in the presence of the King. And so, like, that's literally was my routine, day in and day out, listening to the word, hearing the word being preached, and, you know, worshiping God and reading my Bible for myself. God literally walking me through it and teaching me how to study the word for myself. And long story short, you know, that year ended, and after that year ended, God said something that was interesting to me. And I was like, what? What do you mean, God? So he's like, he just gave me this desire. He was like, ask me for a best friend. And I'm like, why? Like, God, you've become my best friend. Like, what do you mean? Like, you trying to push me out, Lord? Like, I thought we had something going real good. And, like, it seems like you trying to push me away right now. And I don't know how to really feel about this, Lord. Like, I'm taking this personally, right? And so I'm in that place. But I'm like, okay. Like, again, you know best. Like, I'm just, you created me. Like, you're the potter, I'm the clay. So, okay, if you're asking me to ask for this, then I'll ask. And, like, the desire came really strong, but I'm thinking it's a female. Like, who's thinking about a man right now? Like, again, God, you're my best friend. And so I said, okay, God, you know, I asked you for a best friend. But it's funny, too, interestingly enough, during that time, God had me to write out what I wanted in a husband and to, like, post it on my wall. Like, not even thinking about any of that and why he would have me to do that at that time. Like, I wasn't desiring it, but he literally had me do that at one time in that year process, and I did it, but I forgot all about it. And so you fast forward to that time and me doing it, and then we meet
in church. You saw each other. I saw you.
Yeah. And
that's slid into your DMs. I was the original DM slider inner. I was the original back in 2010. Okay, the original. And then we started talking and started chatting through there. Yeah. And, you know, the rest is now a 14-year history. But there was so much that happened in between that time. Yeah. And, you know, I think this is a key thing to understand. Stop trying to find your husband or your wife.
Yeah.
let God bring them to you. Like, you're doing too much. Get off Tinder. Get off Facebook dating. That was just a terrible idea. Get off Craigslist. Get off farmersonly.com. Get off blackpeoplemeet.com. Get off Christian Mingle. Like, allow God to place you in the position to get that and to have that. How did we do that? We went and spent time with God.
Not saying God can work through those means or those mediums, but let Him tell you.
Let Him tell you that. Don't go keep applying to all these places. Sometimes seclusion with God and just being alone is what will prepare you for where you're going and for who's to come. Like you said something that was key. How could you learn to love anybody else if you didn't first learn how to love yourself and to love God appropriately? Yeah. Anybody else that comes into that mix does not stand a chance. They don't stand a chance because you're not prepared for that yet. And so, like, that time period where, I mean, there were a few different young ladies during that time who I was friends with, some that wanted relationships, and I'm just like, no, I'm good. And let me tell you why I'm good. And like, this is kind of a savage point, but I remember the young lady that I was dating at the time. I told her, I was like, yeah, my next girlfriend is light skinned and 5'2". And she's like,
how did you know
what?
that?
Because God told me, literally. I knew that relationship was coming to an end. We were hitting a lot of bumps in the road. And God just started talking to me about the future. And so, literally, God forecasted that to me because I knew that where I was not where I was supposed to be. I couldn't force that any longer. I couldn't try to make something happen that was not supposed to happen. I literally had to hear the voice of God. And so now, anything that came to me that did not line up with what God said to me specifically, that wasn't it. So all the young ladies that I was friends with and that wanted relationships, how tall are you? You're not light skinned. Nothing against anyone that's dark skinned. I have darker skinned children. I have a darker skinned mother. All that. I love all shades of people. This is what God said to me. That was my identifying factor.
He wrote the vision.
He wrote the vision literally and made it plain. So you had your list. I had two things on my list: light skin and 5'2". That's all that I knew. Yeah. And so, I said that to her, not to be rude, but I just knew, like, this is coming to an end. This is what God is saying to me, and that was my identifier. Yeah. And so, when God gives you a vision of something, stop entertaining everything that comes along that don't look like what God told you. Don't entertain that because you then waste time and you set yourself back further and further and further because you don't allow God to do it. Yeah. And I think that that's what really set us up to be in the position, like, we waited for what God said. Yeah. We heard what He said and we acted on what He said, not what we said or what we wanted, right?
Or made it God. Oh yeah, this my man, this my one.
And that takes discipline.
Yeah, for sure.
That takes discipline. At 19? Yeah. Like, I was, what I'm saying? At 19, that was it, right? Right?
Sure, yes, okay. Baby, you
were. Like, you were a beautiful, beautiful young lady. You could have been with anyone during that time, but it takes patience, maturity. It takes maturity, it takes grace to be in the world, especially back at that time. Boy, good God, like, everything running rampant at that time, but we decided to make the decision, hey, we're going to, and we stayed virgins too. We were both virgins. We were virgins until marriage, and I believe again that it was that time period that God was calling us away to be secluded that really helped to keep us in alignment with what we knew God said to us.
Yeah, that's so important to be in the place of just waiting on God. Like, a lot of people can get to a place of like, hey, I'm too old, or hey, I ain't got much time left. Like, forget all that. Like, God has the ability to do what He needs to do in your life. Absolutely. And so don't put God on your timetable or to put your relationship status or what you need or what you feel like needs to happen in a box, because that box is God, and we literally would not have the testimonies that God has given us if we weren't in alignment with faith in God. And so I believe that that's absolutely key and necessary. Like, it matters who you marry. It matters who you are in covenant with, who you're in relationship, because God put His stamp of approval on it. You hear the whole debate about, oh, do you believe in soulmates? Do you believe not? Like, if God picked everything else about your life, He picked your mother, your father, what area you would grow up in, your city, your state, He'd pick your spouse. come on, don't tell me like don't insult my God like that, right? Like he's figuring it all out for us. But a lot of us just don't want to wait for his timing, and we don't want to wait for his will, and that becomes a detriment because you make yourself have to work harder rather than smarter when you just do it God's way. Like marriage can be hard enough within itself, so why allow it to be something even greater of an extent of being difficult for your life because you don't want to submit? Like, to me, that's just not smart. Like, it's kind of dumb. At the end of the day, like, I don't even know how to polish that or make it sound nicer. Like, it's just stupid. Like, and so, you know, God says my people perish from lack of knowledge, and that's the type of ignorance that he's talking about. That's essentially what he's saying. Like, come on, bro, that's stupid. Like, just trust me to be who I am in your life, and watch I supersede your wildest imagination. Like, you could pick somebody for yourself, right? You could pick somebody you think look good, you know, got all the qualities that you want or you desire, but when God picks that person, like when God picks the one that he has for you, I'm telling you, it's going to far exceed your wildest imagination. Like, you weren't just what I wanted, but like you were absolutely in every way, and it's confirmed all the time, and it's still confirmed 14 years later why God picked you for me. And I think that only happens, not that I think, I know that only happens when you wait on the timing of God.
And just because it's a good thing
Don't mean
doesn't mean it's a God thing. It could be the fattest thing in the world. That don't mean it's for you. He could have all the muscles and the six pack and all that, but that doesn't mean that it's for you.
Yeah.
The good thing, the great thing, the fine thing, don't mean it's the God thing. And when you wait on God, he'll make sure that it's fine as wine. I'm telling you bars. You trying to say I wasn't a rapper before. I know what I am. He'll make sure that it's fine. He'll make sure that that it look good, that it feels good, that he'll make sure.
Pause doesn't feel good. That don't come to
get married, right? He'll make sure that it's exactly what you need. Yeah. And it'll be better than a good thing. It'll be better than a great thing. It'll be better than that thing that you absolutely thought was what you wanted and was the most, could do no wrong. Listen, God will make sure that he's got, listen, when God put Eve in that garden, Adam said, whoa man. That's why she's woman, right? He said, whoa man, look at that right there.
I couldn't outdid that God.
I couldn't have picked it better myself.
Yeah.
But that's because, you know, we decided to wait. And so, like, what was that process like for you, right? When you heard God say the best friend and then I showed up, what was your thought process at that point?
I resisted it for quite some time because I was in the position of like, God, I thought this was supposed to be a girl. Like, what are you doing here? Like, again, I wasn't looking for a husband. Like, I didn't feel like I was prepared for marriage at that time. Mm-hmm. Now,
neither did I.
Our season of preparation looked totally different than God's season of preparation. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we can think we're prepared for something and we're totally not ready. And then other times, which in this case, you know, you're totally prepared, you're totally ready, but you don't feel that way. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we can't go based on our own personal feelings, but we got to go based off of what God has to say about the matter. And so I just had to put it through the testing. Like, it wasn't to just put you through the ringer for ringer's sake, but like I literally had to be sure that I was sure that this was what God was saying to me, because I didn't want, like, I had such this reverence for God, and it's carried me through my life. Like, I have such this honor for God that I don't want to disappoint you in any way, and I never want to deviate from the path that you set for me where my life is concerned. Yeah. I don't want it to be derailed. Like, I don't want what you have going on for NaTavia to be changed by anything that I do or any human reasoning that I decide to input in your will for my life. And so because of that, I just made this decision to really make sure. Like, I just had to get the confirmations. I had to find out what God was saying. And, you know, at times where I can admit there were times where I was self-sabotaging and God would stop speaking to me. Like, God dang, like, please don't leave me. Don't take your presence from me. Just like Moses, he said, you know, God, if your presence ain't going, I ain't going either. And that's how I felt. So, you know, when God started doing stuff like that, like, I just quickly got back in line. And so one of the ways that you can know whether something is the will of God is God in the midst of it. Like, do you find God there? Or is he nowhere to be found? Then you may want to check what's happening, what's taking place there. And so, you know, when I got to that place of really realizing it was God, I began to embrace it. You know, I began to get in a position and get in a place where I welcomed it. And I became excited about the vision that God had given. And it's funny because You know, when God puts a man and a woman together, I believe that he always gives the man the vision first. Not to say always, but I believe most times, because the Bible says he who finds, not she, he who finds a wife finds a good thing. And so, you know, you already had the vision from the beginning, and you can talk about that as well. But once I got in alignment with that vision, I believe that it allowed purpose to be able to be fulfilled. And I remember one of the main things that stuck out for me was once when I asked God for like a final confirmation, right? And it's okay. Like, God is okay with you coming and questioning and asking. And I was like, okay, God, we're sitting in my mom's kitchen, and she has this tall island. And I'm like, okay, I'm saying this in my head, like, God, if this is my husband, let her reach out his hand and help me down off this chair. Like, just something simple. Like, I don't even know why I thought of that in that moment. It was probably Holy Spirit led. He was probably sick of me continuously combating and going back and forth with this. And so, like, I was looking at him. He was looking at me like he did a little puppy head, like turned his head to the side, like, why are you looking like this? And I'm just looking and sitting there. And then he reaches out his hand, and I had like the biggest smile on my face. He's like, what are you smiling for? And I was like, nothing. And I just left it at that. And I think I told you about it a while after that. But it was that moment that solidified, okay, God, I'm not going to doubt this anymore, and I'm going to pursue what you have for me.
Absolutely. I believe that all the testing that you put me through, I felt like I was going round for round with Mike Tyson. Like it was blow after blow after blow after blow. Mm-hmm. And I felt like that really established what we have today. That fight, it established the ability to fight and not run from the smallest problem. This I've learned how to deal with you. I've learned how to deal with you.
Don't say it like that.
Listen, I've learned. You learned how to deal with me too. Like, it's not a dig at you. We've learned how to deal with each other, but I believe that it came through those times and through that stuff. So there's not a lot that you can do now or that you can say now that'll be like, all right, I'm out. Like, nothing. We know how to handle and how to deal with each other. And I think that those times, although they did not feel good then, they were hard times, but they set up a foundation for us. I remember this one time, you roll your eyes every time I tell this story. I remember one time we were talking, and you pretty much told me, hey, you know, because we dated for a long time. We dated for about 6 months, just friends, and we were talking all the time, and we were pretty much doing everything.
That's really courting.
We were,
We were courting. We
courting.
were dating.
We were doing. It seemed everything that boyfriend and girlfriend would do is what we did. We just, to an extent. I mean,
define that. We were.
I mean, the only thing we didn't do was kiss. I mean, we were going out. We were dating, courting. I mean, you were my girlfriend. You just didn't want to call it that. And so it is what it is.
We were courting.
And so I remember.
In the discovery phase.
How much was we discovering?
Everything I needed to know.
Well, I hope you found out what you were discovering. I hope you discovered.
Now, right?
I hope you discovered. And so I remember you were like, one day you told me, you said, yeah, you know, I think this is, you know, we're going to stop talking and, you know, I'm going to go my way. You go your way, and that's just that. And I was like, okay. Now, this had happened a couple times before, and I was distraught those times it happened. But this time I was like, all right, bet. I'm going to show her.
Did we ever talk about why those happened?
Why what happened?
Those times where I would say, okay, you go your way and I go mine.
I think that you mentioned because you were dealing with God. Like, God was dealing with you in those moments, in those self-sabotaging moments, and your fear of getting close to someone. Yeah.
It felt weird. It felt like as I was getting closer to you, it made me feel like I was getting further away from God. And I wasn't, because now, in retrospect, I knew that God was creating you as a tangible representation of Him for me, but it didn't feel like that in that season.
Right. And so this the last time that this happened, and I was like, cool, let's do this. And so the next morning, I did not text you. I would text you every morning. I went to go play football with some of the guys from church. And you text me, and I did not respond. And I looked at my phone. I wanted to respond so bad, but I was like, nope. She said, we done? I'm not going to keep playing this game with her. Listen, I'm a catch too, okay? And so she ain't the only one in this relationship. Keep yo-yoing me around. No, I'm not going to respond.
It wasn't in a relationship.
Anyway, I didn't respond.
Were we officially in a relationship then?
In my mind,
be honest.
In my mind, yes.
No,
but you kept restarting. You kept pushing the goalposts further away, and so
a relationship has to be established in communication.
It was still a relationship. It was a friendship. It was a friendship, but you knew that there was more to it than that.
I knew we were going in that route. You were just quicker than I was.
You know why I was quicker than you were?
Why?
Because God, like you said, God had already showed me the vision. Yeah. So our second time going out, I knew you were my wife. Ladies, it don't take 6 months for the man to know. When he knows, ladies. He knows. Oof. Okay. Second date, which was 2 days later.
You get some men in trouble.
I don't care. Listen, put a ring on it. Or get out the way so somebody else can do it. I knew I was going after what I knew was mine. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't respond to you. And so you texted me, you said, so this is what you're going to do? This is how you're going to act? And I'm like, what you mean this is how I'm going to act? You did this.
Petty Betty, okay?
I'm Petty Betty. No. This is what you did this. For like the 5th or 6th time, cool, I'm going to let you have it. You don't want to talk? You don't want... Cool, go ahead, go your way, I go my way. And you did not like that. But I think at that moment, that made you realize, oh, wait, I don't really want to lose what we had or what we've built. Like, he ain't playing this time. And so I think that's even something for the ladies too. Like, even in your testing phase, don't toy man along. Like, be 100%. You know too, from date one, whether this is potential or not. Whether this is somebody you can see yourself with or not. And so be honest about that. Now, I don't take anything away from our discovery phase. Even though it was difficult, even though it was hard, we laugh and we joke about it. But I know that it was necessary for where we were going. Yeah. And so it doesn't take a long time to do that. Yeah. And so probably, maybe 2 months after that is when we were official as a title, if you will. And how, pray tell, did that come about, young lady?
So, prior to that, right, we celebrated your birthday. Mm-hmm. Yep, in October. And I took you out.
You did?
Yeah, I paid and everything.
To Cheesecake Factory. All y'all that complain about Cheesecake Factory, listen, Cheesecake Factory got her 14 years. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, I already had you before then, but I guess they still did. But yeah, I took you out. And then, what did we do after that? Went bowling, right?
Yeah, we went to Cheesecake Factory, bowling, and then that Sunday we did like Red Lobster, like my family. Okay. Your family.
Yeah, we did all of that. And then I think I had to work. I was doing catering at that time, and I had to work that Sunday, I believe, Sunday.
It was a Saturday.
Yeah, that Saturday. But you were coming to pick me up, and while I was there, this guy kept bugging me. And he kept being all in my face. And I'm like, sir, like, I don't want to talk to you. Again, I was just still in that phase. Like, I don't care. And then I definitely wasn't entertaining anybody else with us being in the place of courting. Like, why would I do that? And so I was like, what can I tell this dude? And I was just like, it just came, like, tell me you got a boyfriend. I'm like, ding, ding, ding. Like, that's always get him away, right? That always moves or whatever. And so I was like, the next time he came up and approached me or whatever, I was like, I got a boyfriend. He was like, you do? Like, yes. He didn't believe me, or he was still trying to push the narrative, but I just wasn't having it at that point. I'm like, listen, I got a boyfriend. Like, leave me alone. And you came to pick me up, and I told you the story, and I was like, he was like, oh, so what happened? And I'm like, yeah, this guy came up or whatever, and he was trying to talk to me, and I told him I had a boyfriend, and you was like, oh, really? And I was like, yeah. And you were like quiet the rest of the ride. Like, you didn't even entertain it. Nope. You didn't say nothing about it. But he wanted to. He was like jumping for joy, cartwheels on the inside.
I didn't say anything. I dropped you off. You went into your mom's house, and I was like, I'll see you later. And
what happened when I went in the house and you drove off? About that. Let's tell them.
So, no, I was concerned. I was concerned. Yes, because I'm like, wait. Something's wrong, because she ain't never said that to me. When did we get in a relationship? Because this ain't a relationship, remember? So I'm like, let me not get my hopes up about this just yet. And that, again, that stemmed from everything else that happened in the past. I'm like, okay, this is going way too far playing games. Like, don't say this to me because you know this is what I really want. Like, this is it. This don't play with me. Like, are you serious? And so that's how I felt. So I remember that night I went and I stayed at Brent's house, and we were talking that night. And so out of nowhere, I was like, I didn't know. It was kind of quiet. We were just on the phone because we knew there was a fat elephant in the room. Like, the elephant was fat. Biggest elephant you ever seen was in the room. And so we sat on the phone quiet for about 10 minutes. And I was like, so you got a boyfriend, huh? And she was like, yeah, I guess I do. And I was like, are you sure? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, okay. And we prayed that night. That's how we started. We prayed. I don't know nobody who said, you want to be my boyfriend? Yes. You want to be my girlfriend? Yes. Let's pray.
We churchy, y'all. We churchy.
Right. I have never heard of that ever in my life.
That churchy that got us here today. That's
free game, okay? That's free premarital game, okay? Pray at the beginning when you say you want to be my boyfriend. Check the box, yes or no. Yes. Let's pray. Go for it, right? And we prayed that night, and that literally established the foundation for our marriage. And so that's like the whole backstory of all of that.
And that's key though, because I feel like from that point, like, we never practiced divorce.
No.
Like, the moment we
never
said
broke up.
that we were boyfriend and girlfriend, never. And I just believe that stemmed from our relationship with God and knowing how serious covenant is to Him. Like, then that covenant is serious to us. Like, it's to death do us part. Like, we're never leaving out of this. It doesn't matter what you do, what I do. Like, we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna fix it. And I think that that's very much so important.
Absolutely, because no marriage is perfect. We've had some tough times. Yeah. You're gonna have some bad days. You're gonna have some bad weeks. Yeah. You're gonna have some bad months.
You're gonna have some times where you want to wring their neck.
Ring it.
But don't do it.
But yes,
practice self-control. It's fruit of the spirit. Okay.
But I believe, again, us practicing staying together. Like, we never broke up. I never realized that. We never broke up. We never did that. No. And that, I believe, that set the foundation for where we are today. Yeah. And so, from the time that we started talking in May of 2010 to, we probably had a few, 2 months in between where we didn't talk. I think your birthday time is when we reconnected again in August. But we had talked every single day. We would go to sleep
on the phone,
wake up, come to your house, eat breakfast, go out, go home, be back on the phone,
and do it all over again.
Yeah. Good times. Very good times. Now we can't have a 20-minute conversation without a kid coming and saying something. And so now we fast forward to Chicago. Yeah. That year, you had asked your parents. You were so
I was nervous. Super nervous. But when your parents put their stamp of approval, it's like, this has to be God. And so I remember going to IHOP with my parents that day, and I was super scared. They gonna absolutely say no. Why would they let me go to Chicago with this man that they barely know, that I barely know, for Christmas? Why would they do that? And so I asked, and they was like, sure, go ahead. I'm like, what? Who are y'all? What have y'all done with my parents? What's going on here? Seriously. And they were all for it. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'm going to Chicago. Mm-hmm. And we made that decision, and I was prepared to go, and then I got sick.
Really
sick. Really sick.
You were really sick. Yeah. I had never seen you that sick before.
And I was so sad.
And man, so listen,
I cried. I literally cried.
We both did. Remember when I left that last night before we were set to drive out? Mm-hmm. We were standing at your door, and we was both hugging and crying because, again, we had spent every day together for months. This was the first time that we had ever been apart, and so it was like, bruh, really? And so that was such a blow, at that time. But there was something that really solidified that moment. Because I believe a few days prior, we talked about marriage, one day. Mm-hmm. One day. Yeah. No time soon. Yeah, one day. But one day. Right. But there was nothing that had happened yet to give us that solid, I cannot be without this person in my life. Yeah. And Chicago did that.
Was intentional.
Yeah. That was I believe that was a design by God. He didn't get you sick, but he allowed that moment to introduce this thought process, like, you can't be without this person. And I remember I ain't had fun that whole trip. I was like, whack. Just whack. Like, whack. And
we talked pretty much the whole time.
Yeah, we talked the entire time. I was driving there, that I was there. Like, you might not be here, but we're gonna be on this phone talking. I left Christmas gifts for you, and my mom was trying to get me off the phone. No, I'm having way more fun on this phone call. We left each other Christmas gifts, and so we exchanged gifts and all that stuff. And it was, again, during that time that I was like, man, I can't be without this girl. Like, no, I can't do that. And I had made the decision. I was like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna propose. I'm gonna do it. And so I remember coming back.
You thought about it before then? Before you came back?
I thought about it. It was a brief thought, but it was in my mind. Like, I gotta marry her. Like, I have to. And so I remember when I saw you 5 days later. This is the first. We had never been away from each other that long. Man, it was a great reunion. We were together. I know your mom, she was all smiling like, thank God you back. Cause, good, she's back. She's yours now. I remember we were downstairs. I was downstairs. I had gotten off work that day. And we were downstairs in your mother's daycare. And we were sitting there, and I had given you a promise ring. It was on your right hand. And I said, let me have your ring.
Yeah, I thought he was about to break up with me. I was like, you leave, and then you come back to break up with me? Like, it's about to be on site.
I was broke, okay? Not just broke, but I didn't have time to think about getting a ring. It was spontaneous, right? It was impulsive. Again, I had the thought, but again, it was like futuristic. Yeah. But in that moment, God was like, now. And I'm like, now what? He was like, do it now. And so I took the promise ring off. And she was so nervous. I could see it all in her face. And I said some things to her.
You looked like distraught. Like, you were smiling.
I didn't know. It was so much stuff going through my head. Like, I had no idea, like, what was about to happen. And so I took the ring. And I said, listen, I love you. I never want to be away from you again like that. That was terrible. And I just said a whole bunch of stuff. I don't remember everything I said. I said a whole bunch of stuff that I really meant. And I said, will you marry me? And she said yes. And I was probably expecting her to say no, because I'm like, I knew we had talked about it, but I didn't know if we were ready. And so she said yes. Put that promise ring on her finger, and it was like, oh my God, what did we just do? We have to tell our parents this. Right? Like, oh my God, what's done in secret will come to the light. And so that was a great moment. Yeah. But what I thought was a deficit of you having a promise ring as your engagement ring, God just said, I'm going to reward your obedience. You obeyed me, and you did what I said to do.
And I looked at it that way.
I'm going to reward your obedience. What'd he do?
Blessed us with 2 wedding rings.
2 sets of rings. Not just one.
Yeah, 2.
But 2. All because we were obedient to do what he said to do in that moment.
Wow, I never thought about it like that. Good to have these type of conversations.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so let's talk about the first ring.
Let's talk about it.
So we had intercessory prayer at our church, and we were there every day.
Every single day. It was like for 30 days.
Yeah, walking hand in hand and pray. And some people ain't like that, but we didn't care. We're already engaged now. What are you talking about? Like, we're preparing for marriage. And mind your own business. We got goals here. Like,
haters.
There's a vision. There's something that God has us after. And so we're walking, and we're just faithful and committed, not thinking about anything. Like, just doing what God told us to do. And I remember one particular day that we're there, and then somebody's like, hey, come to my seat. I have something for you. I'm like, oh, okay. And, all oblivious and stuff. And then she reaches into her purse, and she pulls out a ring. I was like, God told me to give you guys this. And we're like, oh, my God. Like, oh, my God, thank you so much. And we're crying and hugging and crying and hugging. And we're just, like, super amazed that, like, God, like, you're setting things up, like, rapidly where this is concerned, and like it almost felt like God had a timeline for it, like
He did.
that God wanted it sooner rather than later. Like you cannot delay my will in the earth, and that's why I think it's so imperative that you are sensitive to his leading and what he's telling you to do, absolutely. Because you can miss that, right? You can miss the timetables of God, and that's almost like a scary thought in your mind when you think about it. Like, I have to make sure that I'm constantly in alignment with him so I don't miss what he has set up for me.
Yep. And she had said that she had been walking around with those rings for weeks.
For weeks, yeah. And
she did not know what to do with them. Do I take them to the pawn shop? Do I just throw them away? I don't know what to do. And she saw us and said, hey, God said to give you this. And it was funny because the ring was, I think it was really like 3 rings. It was the wedding, it was the engagement ring, the wedding ring, and a wedding band. Yeah. And man, it was amazing. It was amazing to see that, to see God do that. Mm-hmm. And then maybe like a week or 2 after that, I get a phone call, and this person says, hey, somebody bought this for me, and it didn't fit. I saw that y'all are engaged now. Do y'all want this? And I'm like, Another one. Like, what? Like, come on, God, another ring? And she said, yeah, I'll put it in the mail and I'll send it to you. Mm-hmm. And we was like, oh my God, like 2 rings, all because of that one act of obedience. Like, God's going to reward your faith. He's going to answer your faith if you would just be obedient. Like, there are things that he has set up for you supernaturally. I didn't spend any money on a ring. I spent no money on engagement rings. Not $1. Yeah. I spent $80 on your promise ring. Yeah. That was it. I didn't spend thousands of dollars on engagement rings. God literally said, hey, because, again, when God gives you an assignment, when he gives you a mission, he's going to provide for that. Yeah. And here you are walking around with 2 rings. And it was so amazing. And then we ended up sewing the first set of rings into someone else who was engaged. Mm-hmm. And it's just amazing to see how God was able to work that out, all because of our obedience from the beginning to be set apart. Yeah. Stay secluded for a while. Yeah. Ask me for a best friend. Yeah. Go slide into her DMs. Mm-hmm. Like, just all the timeline, God had it set up all along. And yet again, it was the foundation for exactly what we see here today.
Absolutely epic.
Epic.
I love our testimonies.
Me too. And listen, to be honest, I wouldn't believe some of our testimonies if we didn't live it. Like, it'd be like, what? Ain't no way. You lying. Ain't no way. But it's like, these are the things that we literally live, like real life. That's on life. Like, that's on life. Like, these are the real things that we lived. And we hope that this is an encouragement to you. Listen, if you're out there and you want to propose to that woman, don't stress. You ain't got the ring? Don't stress. Don't worry about that. Believe God for it. Believe God. You can believe God for anything.
She worth it. She worth it.
Believe God for anything. Believe him for the biggest, fattest ring possible. And the rings that she got, they wasn't no small rinky-dink rings. Yeah. I mean, they had the baguettes falling off the side and the big stones and the clusters. And listen, that was some good stuff. Yeah. And God can do that. You just got to trust and have the faith to believe. Maybe you're not believing God for a wedding ring or an engagement ring. Maybe you're not believing God for a husband or a wife at this time. But whatever you're believing God for, take the testimony that you heard today as a spirit of prophecy and use that for what you are believing God for. But hey, listen, if you are believing for a spouse, if you are believing for that ring, use this testimony. Stand on this. Yeah. Stand on this testimony because it's a good one. It's a good one. If he did it for me, if he helped your boy out, I'm telling you, he'll absolutely do the same thing for you. Now, you women that's proposing, it ain't gonna work.
Cut that out. Cut that out. We ain't doing none of that.
No, I'm not doing that. No. Listen, we hope that you've enjoyed this segment of Testimony Tuesday. Yeah. I hope that you enjoy our story and that you literally take things away from this. Listen, the testimony is great. But it's the loading part where you see the real manifestation. Yeah. It's in the loading because it's when you're learning things in the process. You're gaining information. You're gaining revelation knowledge. You're gaining wisdom. You're gaining understanding. Like getting to the place. It's the scenic route. It's the long scenic route sometimes, but it's necessary. It's beautiful. It's necessary because it really unpacks the essence of faith and how we believe.
Absolutely.
Listen, Testimony Tuesdays, we'll be back next week with another testimony. I'm telling you, you do not want to miss it. You do not want to miss it. Don't forget to send us your faith questions to info@connectingchurch.org. We'll be reading one of those on the next episode. So you may want to make
yours?
Sure.
Get that in.
Get it in. Get it in. All right.
And remember, Revelations 19:10 declares that the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy.
And if he did it for us, he can do it for you. And remember your testimony is loading. We'll see you next week. Hey, we're super excited about the release of our very first book, The 40 Days of Faith Daily Devotional and the Daily Journal. Do us a favor and scan the QR code on the screen or go to the website listed and grab a copy for you and a friend today.